Well, folks, let's face it, the face of car audio has been in a constant state of flux since the middle 60s. Even before that, they were trying some pretty wacky things in the cars. You could, at one point, get a honest-to-goodness record player to put in your car. Fortunately, things have moved on since then. And the next move from there was the 8-track tape. Now, the 8-track was large, bulky, and a lot of times if you didn't get a really good high-quality 8-track, it would actually change in the middle of a really long song. Say if you were playing In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida or something like that. So, the next move from there was to also miniaturize. And from there, in about the middle 70s, the most popular thing running was the cassette. Now, the cassette gave you everything you had with the 8-track plus more. You could get more music on there, you could get more stuff on it. So, what you got with that then is a little bit smaller setup in the car. From there, everybody decided that we needed to go to CDs. And then with the CD, you got even more miniaturization, a lot slimmer. You get a lot more of those things in your console. And today, where is that coming from?
Hey Jeff, how's it going?
I'm doing well. What is going on with this radio?
Oh, I was just checking out the Bluetooth connection to the new RetroSound Model 2.
Blue who?
No, not who. Bluetooth. Like a tooth.
Like tooth.
Like tooth.
So this Bluetooth stuff that you speak of, how did you do that? Because basically I'm hearing what I see on the screen, which basically this is your iPad, correct? Mm-hmm. And you're actually playing the video from the show through the sound system. How is that happening? Because there's no wires connected here.
Exactly. It's like you were talking about. Things have advanced from the radio to the cassette to the CD. And then we had different connection methods. We had RCA jacks, we had FM modulators, and you even have the mini jack inputs now. Well,
Right.
Bluetooth is the latest standard for connection. It's a completely wireless standard. So anything that is Bluetooth enabled, I'm sure you've heard that term.
Wait a minute, so you're telling me, like, let's just say my Android phone, because I've got a smartphone that I use on a daily basis now that's basically internet connected. I can do anything I want to through it. I can connect my Android phone through the Model 2 radio from RetroSound.
Yeah. Yeah, you can play all your music
Wow.
through there. You can play iHeartRadio, Pandora, and you can even use it as a wireless speakerphone while you're driving down the road.
So wait a minute, we've now basically taken a vintage car radio, because basically this radio will go in pretty much any kind of car at all because of the unique way they've set their system up, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in just a few minutes, but basically the way that's set up, you can literally run this old radio, so to speak, which is a new radio.
Well, it's an old-looking radio.
Exactly, it's an old-looking radio, but you can run the old-looking radio through that and have hands-free operation inside the car like you would with a brand new car.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
And there's just so many features on this radio. It's got all kinds of different inputs. It's got 2 different auxiliary port inputs. You could use that if you wanted to hook in a CD player or an old tape deck or anything like that. It's, of course, it's got the FM antenna. So
if
it's
you
got a
can
built-in
still
AM
run
FM tuner.
You can still run it as a standard AM/FM radio if you want,
Oh,
with all your
absolutely.
presets and stuff like that. I understand this radio is even set up for Europe as well. So in other words, you don't have to have anything special for European radio. The radio is already set up to do that.
Yeah, they even talk about the chassis being set up for the European cars, Jags and Beamers and Porsches, things like that.
Yeah. So what's not like? So even if you've got a European-based car that you've brought over into the United States, the Model 2 will actually bolt right into the dash panel. Even if you want to run the USA sound stuff in it, you can put that radio in there, run USA radio signals
Right.
through the radio that looks like an original one in the dash panel.
And you keep the classic look, and the little buttons that look like the old preset radio
Right,
buttons
right, yeah, I was
are
noticing
preset
that.
radio buttons.
Well, I mean, I just thought this was going to be a radio, but it looks to me like we've got a little bit more going on here. I mean, we've got a lot of features that are available through this thing. So basically, you could even run your iPod.
It's actually got USB connections on it, so not only can you connect your iPod to it, you can control the iPod through
Through the radio knobs.
knob. I think that's the word I was looking for.
That's what I'm here for. I know about the knobs. I mean, I understand knobs, but you're the electronics guy, so I guess.
Well, not just knobs. In an old school radio, you might have had a little volume control, you might have had fade and tone and things like that. So these knobs will actually control cycling through your different inputs. You can control your equalizer settings, and on the right-hand knobs, you can actually control your iPod. Go through your playlist, and if you want to find a particular song, all that right on the knob.
So If I had, like say, this memory stick that we've got sitting here on the table, a memory stick full of different music that I want to put on the system, I can actually just plug that into one of the USB ports. It's got, what, like 2 on it?
It's got 2.
You could plug that into one of the USB ports, have your iPod on the other USB port. I understand it even charges the iPod, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So wow, that's really nice.
That's just the inputs.
But wait, there's more?
But wait, there's more. It's got all kinds of different outputs. We've got RCA outputs for going to an amplifier. It's got the separate subwoofer outputs.
And I understand through this system you can actually control the subwoofer output too. You can set your volume levels and all that kind of stuff on it too.
And a built-in crossover for your frequency levels going to the subwoofer.
Wow.
And it's even got the plain, the speaker connections. If you just
Sure.
want to hook it up, if you're not going for a real wild, high-powered system, you can hook it. I mean, that's what we have here, hooked directly to speakers.
Yeah, we've got a pair of their the Retro Sound 4x10s. Now, with our setup that we're going to be doing it on Fairlane, the Fairlane is going to actually be getting the 4x10s, some 5.5-inch rounds, and 2 8-inch subwoofers from the guys at Retro Sound. So that stuff will be going in the car a little later on down the road. But we were so excited to get this because this is literally hot off the press. That's actually a pre-production model sitting there on the table. Now, there are some mechanical considerations to make on this Retro Sound Model 2 radio, and that is the fact that this thing is literally completely adjustable. The basics of the radio are this box system that you see here, and it comes completely blown apart and disassembled, which at first blush seems like it would be kind of frustrating, but what it actually does is it opens you up to pretty much any application that you may work with. In other words, if you wanted to pull your radio out of one car and put it into something else, say you're selling the other car and you're moving on to a new automobile, put the old radio back in the old car, you can take the radio out and put it into another vehicle. So much so to the point that you can actually take on some of the early applications for Cadillac and Ford where your knobs are all on one side. You can set the knobs up in just that configuration, plug them in on the other side of the car, and you're good to go. On our application, it's going to basically set up this way. We're going to run these through here, and then this plugs in on the side of the radio right here. And then what you'll want to do is you'll want to take and use the shaft assemblies that come with the kit, and there's all the brackets and everything. Set up your distances, and then you can put the radio together with that. Now, what I would recommend you doing in a case like this is actually going in and using the original radio, if it's still in the car, to set this thing up. Some radios, especially some of the early Ford products, actually have offsets for the 2 different knob assemblies, so you'll be able to go in and move your brackets around to put that into position. The guys at Retro Sound also offer faceplate setups that will allow you to put it in any kind of opening. Let's say you're working on a 55 Chevy pickup truck or a Cadillac or whatever. They have different radio openings available. They also have several different knob sets available as well. Now, these knobs that we have here on the table are the ones that they sent with the radio. They actually have these in chrome, which for the Fairlane that we're going to be doing will make this really nice because they really mimic the original radio knobs that came with the car back in the day. And I do recommend using the knobs on this because, as Vinny's going to show you here in a minute with some of the functions that you have, these little tabs that stick off the top of the radio like we have here are going to come in really handy when you're trying to receive calls or just work with the radio in general, because pretty much everything you do works off of those knobs.
Now we wanted to take a minute and go through some of the features and the setup of the Retro Sound radio. It's actually really intuitive. Almost everything is set up just using the 2 knobs. You've got your left knob and your right knob. Now there is a left rear and left front, and then a right rear and right front. That's it. You've got 4 knobs that do almost all of your settings. Now right now the radio is how it would be when you've just completed your installation and you've powered it on for the first time. So first things first, we'll turn it on. You just push the left knob and it turns on. Now also on the left knob, if you push the button, that'll turn you into your different modes. You can do your equalizer, your bass, your mid, your treble, balance, and fader. One of them I'd like to really focus on here is you can actually turn the subwoofer controls off and on, which is really handy if you have a subwoofer in the car, but maybe you got a little bit of a headache. You don't want the bass pounding you for the moment. You can actually turn that off and on. And then the other thing you can do is you can actually set your crossover frequencies right from the unit. So if you were going right out of the subwoofer outputs to an amplifier that does not have a built-in crossover, this does the crossover functions for you. Now over on the right-hand side, you push and hold the button until you hear it beep, and it brings you into a menu there. And if you keep pushing the knob in, it'll take you to some different menu items. One of the nice ones is the clock is right there. So once you get on the clock, you just turn the knob and you can set your hours, push the knob again. Now you can set the minutes, which I've had some radios in the past. You had to know some kind of secret code for being able to set the clock. And if you lose the user's manual, and then next year when they do daylight savings time, you don't know how to set your clock. It's kind of aggravating. One of the other features on here, you'll come across one that says scan. When you first power it on, you see it scanning through all the different colors that it's capable of displaying. 32,000 in all. Now, I went through this several times. I thought scan was something for scanning through radio frequencies, so I kind of blazed over it. Scan is actually the color setting on this radio, so I prefer to set a color. I like green, so I'm going to set it for green. And then you can set it for a high illumination or a low illumination. BT stands for Bluetooth, so you want to make sure that's on. If you have a Bluetooth enabled device, like an iPhone, you can pair it to the radio, so then you can listen to whatever music you have on the device right through your car stereo, and you can also do a hands-free mode whenever you receive or make a phone call. So pairing the device to the radio, it's really pretty easy. You just go to your Bluetooth settings and you'll see retro sound come up on the menu. We're going to select that. If it asks for a code, the default on the retro sound radio is 4 zeros. And now you see that they're connected. So with the phone paired, it's really cool on incoming calls. You don't even need to touch your phone to receive them. The second a phone call comes in, oh, look at that. Got a phone call now. Gina's calling me. So I just turn the left knob. Hey, sweetie.
Hey, Dad, on your way home, you got some cat food?
Sure, I can do that for you. Kind of in the middle of something right now, though, so I'm going to need to let you go.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
So just like that, I could have been driving down the road, never would have had to touch the phone. And hands-free is much better and much safer. Another cool thing, like we had demonstrated before, is through the Bluetooth connection, you can listen to music or even use the audio looking at YouTube videos right from your iPhone or Bluetooth-enabled device. The possibilities are just endless. And you also notice when a call came in, the audio was automatically muted.
So that you can hear what the other guy's saying.
Yep, very cool.
And the nice thing is, it doesn't require an Apple product to run. For instance, we hooked this up to my Android and everything works just fine. Same thing with an iPod Nano or even an iPad. We've had all of those devices running through this radio with absolutely no problems at all. We like this product. It's a really neat piece. You should try to look into one too because we think you'll like it just as much as we do.
Well, that's our show for the week. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, next we're going to be coming back with how to rebuild a 4100 Autolite carburetor. Now basically if you've got a 2100, everything we do to this 4100 will apply to your carburetor. There'll just be a little less for you to do than we're going to have to do with the 4100. So be sure to come back and watch us on that on Auto Resto Mod. Have a great week.